there's a different level of energy that you're bringing to the table when your expectations are that you're going to succeed and that you're going to win. And that energy has the ability to attract the people, resources, and opportunities that align with getting you where you want to go.
Hello, Dr. Lakila, and welcome to our Swagger Spotlight series, where we highlight the incredible stories of independent consultants who are out there sealing corporate deals. And sometimes life be lifing, okay? So I would love for you to just rewind the clock back to when you started your own consulting practice. What was going on in your world, and what made you think, you know what, I'm gonna go land some of these corporate contracts?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started off in corporate, retired from corporate in 2019 and started Isee Technologies along with my sister. And really it started out of a need on her end. My sister was born blind, very talented, very gifted, but just had trouble from a career standpoint, running into rejection and being considered for different careers. So while my career is rocking and rolling, hers was not exactly doing that. And I saw an opportunity. She was doing training and development for the state of North Carolina for people who were visually impaired around technology, assistive technology at the time. And so we created Isee Technologies originally to manage that work. And from there, it grew into training and development and all of those things. And I started seeing what the landscape looked like if we were able to land corporate clients. So that originally kicked off in 2019. And then I think Swagger School was that 2022 or 2023, something years later, where I ended up interacting with you and seeing what you were saying around what corporate the scale that you could achieve with corporate contracts. And we were kind of in the middle of closing some. And I said, well, I'm a lifetime learner. So the skill set and teaching like how to systematize that was appealing to me.
Yes, I
Yeah.
love that. And you were going through some personal shifts as well.
Hmm.
I recall you had just lost your mom, you had a new baby. Kind of
Yeah.
where did, building a business fit into you kind of redefining, right, what work and life were going to look like in this new chapter of your life?
Absolutely. So those were very real factors. When I found out I was pregnant, a month later, I found out my mother was going on hospice. So, and where she was in the stage of cancer that she was in, it was pretty clear that she would not be here by the time my son was born, and that was indeed the case. What that period of time taught me as I was helping to take care of her and help with her transition to the ancestor realm and my son transitioning earth side was that I had to prioritize taking care of myself. And in order to show up as the best version of myself, I had to prioritize that. And it ended up being best for everybody. I always say everyone benefits when women take care of themselves, great care of themselves. We tend to put ourselves last on the list. I've always been a person that just naturally has operated in flow versus force. But again, I mentioned the word operationalizing earlier. I started to operationalize that in business as well, where I'm definitely not I don't want to be booked and busy. Like that just feels like, ugh, that feels like a recipe for burnout. And I believe that burnout's 100% preventable. So that period of time as I was dealing with those lifing factors, I intentionally paused and slowed down. And in coming back to the work that I was doing and that the company that I was building, that was my approach was flow, working with companies who were aligned with what we were doing, not feeling like I had to force it or going into places where it's like totally uphill, where maybe getting the contract and the money will be a win, but energetically and the work that it would take to maintain it would be a loss. So it helped me get very clear on that in business.
Absolutely. And, you were no stranger to corporate, right? Having been a former executive. So, talk to us a little bit about what you feel were some of the transferable skills, some of the swagger that you were bringing from your former corporate role that really helped you differentiate yourself and stand out as you were now moving from running corporate to pitching corporate.
Absolutely. Executive presence. How you show up in the room, the energy that you show up in the room with, the confidence that you show up with or without is going to determine how people react and respond to you. So I think a lot of times when, especially women are leaving one area of expertise and transitioning somewhere else, for some reason we want to like start ourselves back at the novice level. And that's not the case. You bring everything. I don't care if you're doing something that's completely different, like off the wall. Like maybe you were running a finance department in your corporate role and now you want to make cookies. You still have all of that experience that you had in that previous role, that there are different ways to apply in your new life, your new role, whatever that position is that you're taking. So one of the things that helped me tremendously was bringing that same level of executive presence and confidence into negotiations, into pitching, into setting up opportunities. One of the things that helped us really take off was getting on stages. And I'm a speaker. I love speaking. I love being on stage. And that really helped cut through the credibility factor. Like once you're on stage, it kind of just says, okay, you know it, you know what you're doing, you know what you're talking about. Now it's just a matter of negotiating the details of projects, right? So I think that one of my superpowers is walking in the room like I've always been there, whether or not I even knew that room existed before I walked in the door. You know what I'm saying?
It's about owning your seat at that negotiation table, right?
Mhm.
And stepping into every boardroom with the confidence, right, that you
Yeah,
are meant to be there. But sometimes when you embark on the journey, right, to land more corporate contracts, you might run into some stumbling blocks, right? There might be
absolutely.
unexpected things that come your way. So I'm curious what you were experiencing before you joined Swagger School and what made you choose Swagger School specifically to support you on your journey to landing more corporate clients.
Before Swagger School, I don't think I really had a strong process around how to go for how to go after clients, and then also the process. There's a life cycle, right, of getting interest and then having a conversation to say, is this a good fit? What are the needs? Here's what we're able to offer, getting a proposal out, getting a response back, getting paid. Like, it's all of those things. There's a whole life cycle. And anywhere in that process, there can be stalls, the conversation can end. So I think what was appealing to me, or I know what was appealing to me about Swagger School was what you were pitching is, hey, let me help you create a repeatable process around this where you can manage the knowns and the unknowns better, be prepared for them. So I think that is one of the most fantastic things about the program.
Most folks, when they hear typical business advice, they're given perspectives around like picking one thing, right, or solving
Mhm.
one problem. And what you found is what most consultants find, right, that things change, right, in the corporate arena very quickly. Can you talk a little bit about what your initial positioning was and how you saw the landscape shifting and how you maybe pivoted and prospered, right, as you saw emerging needs that you could solve?
Absolutely. I think one of the things that helped me going in was that I am comfortable being a multi hyphenate and offering a multi hyphenate. So I never really went in with a rigid. This is all we do, and it's like, oh, I have these apples. I know you're looking for oranges, but I got. Let me tell you about these apples. I'm not looking for apples. I'm looking for oranges. I think that an important part of being able to be successful is being able to listen and hear what the need is. So a lot of my discovery conversations with clients was really just me listening. And as we're talking through, I'm shifting my offering, still maintaining the core competency of what we do, but we are a people development company. People don't take breaks from being people. So neither should an organization's people development efforts. I would just listen for what is the people development need. And that might have been at the time, it could have been, we had one client who was doing a lot of hiring and wanted all of their leadership team trained around inclusive hiring practices. So that was the training that we offered. Another client wanted like kind of core DEI kind of training. And then what we started to hear were more like people are just stressed and our leadership teams are stressed. And that was what was coming out in the conversation. So our offerings, we were able to craft offerings around workforce wellness and managing stress and anxiety in the workplace. So a lot of it just requires listening and then figuring out how is the thing that you do really, really well, is it a good fit? It might not be, but people development is what we do really, really well, and that can take a lot of different lenses. Right now, the trainings and development that we're offering around are around AI for non techies, people who are not comfortable. They're not the first adopters for apps and technology changes, but this is happening. I mean, it's happening rapidly. So a lot of organizations are asking us to come in and help them navigate that space.
Oh, I'd love to hear it because so many people think I got to go into corporate having all the answers, right? And really, it's about knowing what questions to ask, right, to uncover those unmet needs for whom your solutions might be the exact answer that those decision makers have been searching for. So I just love to see the way that you've been able to adapt and be agile and evolve, right, as the landscape has shifted. One of the things that it's been incredibly exciting to see is, you're a published author, right? And so talk to us a little bit about how you're weaving in your thought leadership and you are connecting the dots beyond just that one-off workshop, but to really change the culture of organizations, right, and leave a lasting legacy.
Absolutely. So, people, I think when people understand your story and that helps them connect better to the message. And as we were doing this work with Isee Technologies, as founders, my company is unique in that my sister and I are the founders of the company. People wanted to hear, and we have very different paths to getting here. They wanted to hear more about our stories. Um, and so I got booked to speak around helping women navigate, high achieving women navigate stress and anxiety in the workplace. And I have what I coach and teach on in this space. In this space is something called the show enough principle. And the show enough principle says that what you tell yourself about yourself will show enough impact your experience and your reality. It's how you're going to show up, right? So, and every time I would talk about the show enough principle, people would just get like really excited about it. And I said, okay, well, I need to put this in a book because as a speaker, you get people are just coming up. How can I learn more? How can we talk about this more? And I weaved in a series of just my own experience. I do talk in the book. I opened the book talking about learning that I was pregnant and that my mother was passing, and how I even made that experience joy oriented and joy centric, and how it helped me to prioritize my self-care, prioritize self-celebration. But then I also build that into business principles, different clients that I've worked with, a lot of the high achieving women that I've worked with, and shared those anecdotal stories as well. We are personalized and our professional lives often blend. It's special, especially in this period of time. So the show up principle was a fun and effective way. It's not a long book. I made it to be something that people can put down, pick up, come back to when they need to. But really to give high achieving women the battery in the back that they need to celebrate themselves and to prioritize their self-care.
I just love to hear it. You are embodying what we talk about here at Swagger School about the concept of winning at work, wealth, and well-being, right? The understanding that rest in and of itself is a growth strategy, that joy is its own ROI, right? I just love to see you living and breathing that in flow, as you say. Some people say, don't work with family, don't work with friends, but you've done so successfully. Tell us some of your secrets. What do you think are some of the winning, principles behind effectively partnering with people who you know and love?
You have to, one thing I am very big on is trusting my intuition. Our intuitive capabilities, they come from our intuition, and it's a muscle, right? And the more you use it and the more you trust yourself and lean into it, the stronger that muscle gets. The more that you do not and you don't trust yourself, the weaker it gets, the weaker that voice gets that's telling you, what. So I absolutely say apply that in determining who you will and won't work with. Sometimes friendship relationships are just meant to be friends, family, same way. In this case, my sister and I have been like the ultimate partners in life since we're only 10 and a half months apart. So we've been operating with each other in a way that is that I knew was conducive to us being successful. She has her strengths in the business. I bring a ton of strengths to the business. And then we built a really incredible team around that. So we're not trying to do everything ourselves. I'm big on outsourcing things that are outside of my zone of genius. And I think that knowing that and just having transparent conversations there, as we're running into, if we run into a snag, we're going to talk about it as opposed to like avoiding or, and also keeping it professional. So we meet regularly. We have like meetings on the calendar schedule and, to talk through specific things around the business and don't treat it like don't treat it like it's not formal and professional.
Yeah. Yes, I love to hear it. Because I grew up in a family business, right? I remember my mom closing B2B contracts, like with local schools. Colleges and universities, right? Those were our first deals. And so I just loved, watching your story and see how you two have supported each other so beautifully in this, business growth phase, right? And I think, one of the questions I love to check back in with clients years later, right, to see like, where are they now? Like the Hollywood stars, like, what are they up to? And you've crossed a major milestone, right? You are now the proud owner of a seven-figure corporate consulting business, right? So tell us, what are some of the lessons learned about taking the business to the next level? And what do you think are some of the keys to your success?
Some of the keys to my success. So that's a great question. I think one of them is being very comfortable charging a premium for the services that we provide. I didn't come in the door undercutting myself. I was very aggressive around that. And some potential clients said no. Some said, we can't do that, but we can do this. If I had come in lowballing, then I can't do that, I can do this, would be even lower, right? So it's still, I priced our services in a way that gets us in a range that makes things sustainable. Because the other thing, and I ran into this when I first started Swagger School, is time, right? Like contracts might say net 30, they might say net 60, they might say net 90, but when do you actually get paid? That cash flow management, that I learned very quickly is not going to necessarily line up with what the paperwork says. And because they're corporations, that's a part of the corporation's strategy to pay when it works for them, not necessarily for you. So pricing at a premium was important. Also, becoming bankable. So, building the business credit profile, not just my personal credit profile. I'm not talking about my social security number. I'm talking about the business credit of the EIN for the business, being very intentional about that so that we could access capital more easily. And that's not to say there aren't factors out there for women and Black people that prevent us from getting capital even when we're qualified. But I think sometimes we also just don't know what we need to make it so that we're qualified on paper. Because it's easy to say, well, you don't have any business credit history, so we're not gonna give you a loan. We're not gonna approve a loan for you. But I made those things a non-factor. I built a very strong business credit profile for the business.
Thank you for sharing that, because, many folks think I need more leads, I need more clients, right? To grow revenue, I got to get the numbers up. And you came in with a very strong positioning around pricing strategy, right? Having sat on the other side of the table, understanding what they're working with and the economics, right, of these deals, and being bold enough, right, to say, I'm going to build with sustainability in mind from day one.
Yeah,
Everyone loves to go after, right, the six-figure contract, but it's like you talk about that six-figure contract with a 90-day payment term, right? Can you pay your team for those 90 days while you're waiting for
that
the check to come in, right? So these are a lot of the things you don't realize till you get to that level, right? That come up that require different strategies as you evolve. So thank you so much for sharing that. What is one piece of advice that you would share with a consultant that's getting started on their journey, right? Looking at corporate contracts and saying, I have the solutions to what these organizations need right now. What's one piece of advice you would share with them to inspire them along their journey?
I would say expect the best. I think it's very easy, especially right now. There's just a barrage of negative news, negativity, negative energy. What's for you is for you. So go in expecting that you are going to be successful at this, that this is going to be an easy and enjoyable experience. And I say that because as things come up, it's a different, you've heard me say energy several times in this conversation. There's a different level of energy that you're bringing to the table when your expectations are that you're going to succeed and that you're going to win. And that energy has the ability to attract the people, resources, and opportunities that align with getting you where you want to go. So if we come in the door with an opposite energy, where we're like, I know I can do this, but it's going to be hard, or I'm probably going to get a lot of no's, or, any of that negative stuff. And that's easy. Negative thoughts can creep into our brains very easily, because you will meet some rejection along this process. A lot of this is being able to weather the rejection that comes to get to the right yeses, right? So you need to come into it with an expectation that you're going to be successful, regardless if you've never done it before.
Your story has been one of tremendous resilience. I remember when we began working together, right? And you had a six-figure contract that was just about to close, right? It was just on the cusp, right? And the organization decided to move in a different direction, right? And it's the comeback story, right? What happens after the setback, right, is the setup for the comeback. And to see you evolve and pivot and be resilient, right, in a changing landscape has just been so beautiful to watch. How can people keep up with you? How can they keep in touch and learn more about the wonderful work that you do?
You can follow me on LinkedIn, Lakila Bowden, LAKILABOWDEN. You can also follow me on Instagram, Lakila J. And our company is www.I, the letter I, the word C, SEE, technologies.com.
Thank you, Dr. Lakila. It's been a joy to catch up with you today, to hear the latest and greatest updates on where you are in your Swagger journey. And on behalf of our entire team here at Swagger School, we are wishing you continued success and look forward to seeing where the road leads you.
I appreciate that. And thank you for having me on, and thank you for everything that you're doing.
Thank you.